Travel to northern Tripp County in south central South Dakota, and you're going to find a family farm unlike most in the world.
At Jorgensen Land Cattle, which got its start in 1909, among the thousands of bulls and tens of thousands of acres of crops is a growing agritourism operation. In tonight's Eye on KELOLAND, Travis Fossing tells us how the Jorgensens are preparing to take a swing at golf and why it wouldn't be possible without family.
It's a windy spring day near Ideal, South Dakota, home of Jorgensen Land Cattle, and bulls as far as the eye can see.
We raise bulls. We raise a lot of bulls. We're the largest seed stock producer in the United States, and more or less everything else we do kind of supports that.
Nick Jorgensen is an owner, CEO, and fourth-generation farmer.
I don't mean this in a bad way when I say it, but it's not just a run-of-the-mill farm ranch. Right? We're doing something unique here. We're doing something special. We're doing something important.
We merchandise 6,250 Angus bulls on an annual basis.
Cody Jorgensen is a partner and chief livestock operations officer and says that's more bulls than anyone else in the world. He also manages 1,500 mama cows to make sure the brand's genetics are up to speed.
We started leasing bulls back in the late 80s, early 90s, and that involved delivering the bulls and then picking them back up in the fall. And so I spent a lot of time on the phone doing the marketing and then also doing the deliveries and picking them up. So there for a while I was traveling about 60,000 miles a year.
73-year-old Greg Jorgensen is a third-generation farmer. This partner is slowly phasing out of the business, but has spent the past 2 decades focused on cattle marketing.
Ironically, we don't have hardly any competition in the bull leasing business, so it just keeps growing.
All of the owners have different interests and different specialties within that operation.
Brian Jorgensen is the fourth owner and chief agronomy operations officer.
Right now we're farming right around 12,000 acres of cropland, and we also manage about that many acres of rangeland as well for cattle. In the cropland side of it, we're growing a lot of different crops, primarily crops that are going to be feed sources for our feed yard and for our cattle. And so we're growing winter wheat, spring wheat, oats, corn, forages, alfalfas, all kinds of different crops in rotation.
4 owners, all Jorgensens.
There's something unique about working in a family. We don't always agree on everything, but generally speaking, we agree on 99% of the things.
Greg's grandmother homesteaded on the property in 1909. His dad and uncle became partners after World War II, while Greg joined the mix in the 1970s. His brother Brian has been on the farm for about 40 years. He started when the operation was about a quarter of its current size.
You have to allow that next generation to make change and to grow. I was comfortable with where we were, but yet knowing that if we're going to allow that next generation and the following generations to come in, we have to grow and we have to change.
You know, I've always thought myself as a visionary, but I never envisioned this.
About 9 miles down the gravel road, the family's Lazy J Sporting Club offers pheasant hunting, including a 22-room lodge built in 2012, sporting clays, and a soon-to-be 18-hole golf course.
I think that's part of being viable for the future for families that are in production agriculture. Offering some sort of agritainment in their business, I think, is critical.
We've got really smart people, really hardworking people on this team, so why not maximize what we can do?
Nick says they're currently in the investment phase of the golf course project.
We're hoping to start construction this fall and start growing in the course next spring, and we're golfing in the summer of 2027.
This is the future site to the number 3 tee box and one of the signature holes on the golf course, which they plan to shape around the land and not cut into the landscape.
This 18-hole golf course sits on 440 acres. That's a big footprint for an 18-hole course, right? There's 75 acres of managed grass, fairway and green, but we're spreading it out over a huge piece of property. The reason we did that was we did not make golf. We didn't put a hole here because it needed to be here. We found a hole here because it was already here.
You know, they're not going to have to move a lot of dirt. They actually discovered golf here. They're not manufacturing golf. And that gives me great pleasure to talk about, because we're not interfering with what we already had.
And at least one member of the family can't wait to pick up his clubs.
I just started golfing like 3 years ago, but I love the sport, and I'm so excited about this new opportunity. I just think for us to be able to share the beauty in this area, I just think it's wonderful.
A new adventure made possible by family.
Without our collaboration as a family, this is impossible. It would not happen.
For family.
One of the things you need to have to move this on to the next generation is you've got to have room for them. Whether all 5 of my kids want to come back someday or none of them do, I want to make darn sure that there's room for all of them.
And it's why Jorgensen Land Cattle is celebrating 116 years in Tripp County.
I think the family ties have a huge role in why we're still here, and why me sitting here today, you know, as a 4th generation individual, can see no good reason why we won't be here 116 years from now.
With Eye on Kelloland, I'm Travis Fossing.
While the golf course won't be ready until 2027, the Lazy J Sporting Club is hosting an extreme long-range shooting competition in July, with competitors attempting shots of more than 2 miles in distance. We've provided links with details on the Lazy J and Jorgensen Land and Cattle under this story on KELLOLAND.com.